Hello and welcome to the 8th Advances Against Aspergillosis conference, and this is the third or fourth patients meeting that we've held at this meeting. This year we are going to talk to you about our patient support resources at the National Aspergillosis Centre. My colleague Chris has just been talking to you about the centre itself, and now I'll talk to you a bit about some of the patient support resources that we provide our patients here. The potential of supporting patients who have chronic illnesses is that we should be able to enable them to manage their own disease and lives better. It has for maybe 10 years, 15 years been considered to be something of great potential benefit to the patient, but not only the patient, to the carers, to the families of the patient, and to the clinicians. It also has the additional benefit in the UK at least, and I presume that also it's the same in other countries and other health services, that it can reduce costs. What evidence do we have that supporting patients will actually make a difference? Does it work? Well, after some work had been done over the previous 10 or 15 years, in 2005, there was a Cochrane review published on that subject, and it concluded that existing patient support, so this would be support over and above the standard interaction with a clinician, with your doctor or your nurse, in a specialist service where you had a chronic illness, so you were going to be there for a very long time and going to be needing this support. They concluded that patient support, or the additional patient support, had minimal impact, and it was well below the expectations or potential that the previous slide seemed to indicate that we hoped for. The criticisms of the support at that time were quite interesting. They're quite informative. The support offered was not appropriate for patients with chronic conditions. It was also of a type, it was not of a type sought after by the patient, and it failed to engage the patient. And it's not difficult, if the help offered did not conform with those 3 points, it's not that difficult to imagine that the support would not be successful. One of the main conclusions at the end of that report, the Cochrane report in 2005, was that we must listen to the patient better. The patient knows a lot about their own illness and about how they're coping with their own illness. What the recommendations were, that we should not concentrate on disease management and the needs of clinicians and the clinical service. That rather hints that previous to this, the patient support seemed to be evolving around clinicians trying to make their job more, shall we say, simpler. Instead, it was recommended that future support criteria should focus on patient needs. For example, it should focus on the quality of life of the patient. Moreover, the actual support should be led by the patients if possible. Certainly, the patients should be engaged in making decisions about what sort of support they needed, with equal prominence, if not more prominence, to engaging clinicians. It should also not be narrow in approach. It shouldn't be all about conventional medicine, if you like. It shouldn't be all about conventional approaches. It should be all-encompassing with the end point of trying to make the patient feel better. This is summed up in a very simple statement of purpose. The purpose of patient support that was concluded in a review in 2010 was that this support should be about enabling people to live well with their long-term conditions or condition. Living well being the major emphasis. So, what did we do for aspergillosis at the National Aspergillosis Centre in Manchester? The support we've offered actually predates the setting up of the National Aspergillosis Centre in 2009. It originates with the provision of a website for experts to understand, to medical experts who are expected to treat aspergillosis. We set up with David Denning a website called the Aspergillus website. Back in, I think it was 1998, it first began. But by about the year 2000 or so, it became quite clear there was a demand from the patient side for information on the disease that they were suffering from. So by 2002, we developed an additional section of the website for the Aspergillus website that was devoted to patients. 7 years later, the National Aspergillosis Centre came into being, and that patient's website evolved into, we gave it the URL nacpatients.org.uk, so that's National Aspergillosis Centre Patients, which is what the purpose of the website was initially. But that rapidly became out of date because really everybody in the world, whether they're a patient of NAC or not, needed this support and came to this website, asked questions, came for information already on the website, asked for more information on the website, and also asked for social support from fellow patients. So we set up a variety of resources following the setting up of NAC. One of the first things requested, in addition to the website, were that we should establish monthly meetings here at the centre for our patients, which is something we have done. And those have been consistently attended. We're 10 to 20 people most months ever since. So we've been going 9 years this year, and we are still having a monthly meeting. I think the last meeting had maybe 12 people in it. And there's a whole variety of subjects and activities contained within those meetings. But the focus is, what do the patients want? And we regularly hold discussions in that meeting on what the patients want to see next, what they want to see that year, and so on. We try and provide resources or facilities or get speakers in, specialist speakers in, to provide those services. This makes up the centre of our offline resources, but it's not the only offline resource that we operate for our patients. But I'll talk more about that in a minute. Effectively, we were setting up a community, an aspergillosis community, which contains patients, but it also contains carers, and it also contains their families. We decided an all-encompassing community was the best approach to provide all-encompassing support. Online, as I said before, we have our patients' website and our Aspergillus website. Those have continued to expand and develop and provide lots and lots of support in their own way. Right from the start, year 2000, we had a social discussion group, if you like, based around the software known as Yahoo, and that group is still there. It peaked at about 800 members, I think. And it's got about 650 now. But it wasn't there wasn't a way to widely broadcast a Yahoo website, and we needed to get more and more people in. We needed to reach as many people as we could out there on the internet, and the best place to do that then, and probably still the best place to do it now, is Facebook. So we initially set up one group, and we've gone on setting up groups for each specialist behaviour. We have about 30 groups now on Facebook, and those are very busy groups. So this makes up probably a quarter to a third of our support effort. And the main Facebook group is still the first Facebook group, which is called Aspergillosis Support. To find all these groups, all you have to do is go into Facebook, you get yourself an account, you log in and search for aspergillosis, and you will rapidly find all of our resources. But we're not just a Facebook support group. We also provide online support. Probably for the last 14 months, we've gone on to Skype. There was a demand for people who wanted to see us face to face. They wanted to be in a discussion group in real time, not just writing something and waiting for someone to reply 10 minutes later or whenever. And Skype is a very good real-time discussion medium. So we've set up a weekly meeting, which occurs every Thursday, 11 a.m. UK time. And again, about 10 of us will chat on a number of subjects. It's mainly informal. I might give a short talk on some aspect of research or something that's come up in the news or something like that, but mostly the patients will discuss amongst themselves. Much like Facebook, where subjects are brought up by patients, and there's lots and lots of different types of subjects, and we like to comment and accept and include as many different subjects as we can, because those are the subjects the patients want to talk about. And that quite often leads us to talk about aspects of support that we wouldn't have talked about had we not been led there by the patient, and that gives valuable insights into how we can support our patients and their care. So here is the NAC patients website, just for illustrative purposes. Quite a busy website. We're about to redesign this. Awful lot of information in there. And there are 700 pages of information. This gives you an idea of the number of different groups that we have on Facebook. These are all Facebook groups. You can see a lot of them refer to particular regions, different subject types. And like I said, there's about 30 of them. There's even a group up there for carers, as well as the general groups for aspergillosis support. The NHS also have their own website, www.nhs.uk, and they provide support for aspergillosis here. Of course, this is UK specific for the most part, but there is a huge amount of information in this website also for carers. Young carers is a particular category. They are interested in social care, particularly relevant for UK and particularly relevant for aspergillosis. We also actually, for maybe the last 8 months, 6 months, 8 months, we've been collecting a map of people with aspergillosis, and here it is, as you can see. There's 125 people in it, quite a lot centred around Europe, but also North America, Australia, India, the Philippines, and just about into Africa, but Africa and South America, large parts of Asia are areas that we still have yet to reach. We still have yet to reach using this map. It doesn't mean that we haven't reached them in other ways, of course. This is just people who happen to have filled in this particular map This map has come from the patients, not from us. So what else do? I've already described lots of online resources, but we know from our own clinic, nearly half the people in the clinic don't actually access the internet. They either don't have access to the internet, or they are not independent on accessing the internet. So we must provide those people. And for those people, we provide face-to-face meetings at the centre itself on a monthly basis, where we provide social support, we talks on alternative therapies, and so on, much as I've just already talked about. Every patient gets a newsletter when they come to the clinic, telling them about the meeting. We provide quarterly booklets. Now, they are particularly interesting because they're trying to give a flavour to the offline patient, what is available online. So the NAC patient's website contains a lot of practical support and information, and we pick out aspects of that and put it into this book so people can pick it up in the clinic, take it home with them, read through it, and get the same sort of information and support that they can off the website. And there's also a range of information leaflets, which are probably the longest standing form of information that we give out. Some of those information leaflets are available in this meeting today. If you want to go and have a look at them a little bit later, they should be out on a table somewhere in the room. A member of staff will tell you where they are. And plus, the biggest information leaflet, which is about aspergillosis and how we can avoid becoming infected, has been translated into Portuguese for people who have English as a second language to be able to understand our work with aspergillosis and supporting patients. We also support a range of regional groups in 9 different countries, including one here in Portugal. They are based on Facebook pages, which is where the centre of communication lies, but these are people who will hopefully be encouraging local, regular face-to-face meetings in their own areas and their own countries, and use that as a way to raise awareness and to disseminate information locally about aspergillosis and about our support for people with aspergillosis. Where we can, we have maybe 8 to 10 groups in the UK and Wales and Scotland, and we try to attend those meetings wherever practical and wherever possible. Here is the one for Portugal, the Facebook page for Portugal. I think it has 3 members so far, so it would be really good if, as a consequence of this meeting, we could bump up the numbers in that Facebook group quite considerably. And of course, conversations. People are quite free to have conversations in those groups in Portuguese rather than in English. What we do offline, so our monthly meetings, are also made available online because we stream those meetings live and send them out over the internet, and we also record them, and the recordings are available on that web page, and we get maybe 500 people looking at those most months. The newsletters and booklets are also generally available. So how successful are our efforts? Well, the Facebook and Yahoo worldwide communities probably have 2,500 people in them, talking many times a day. It's very active. They're very active groups. The NHS Choices online group has well over 700 participants now. The NAC patients website probably has 11,000 visitors per month, and the local online Facebook groups, the regional groups, probably have 50 to 70 participants. We have about the last count we had of our Facebook groups that was designed specifically for carers had 75 members in it. And the weekly Skype meetings probably have 20 or 30 regular participants. Not all in the same week. We generally probably 8 to 12 most weeks, but an overall turnover of maybe 20 to 30 people. Offline, the monthly meetings are attended by 10 to 20 people. We distribute 120 community booklets, 250 monthly newsletters. We have 13 information leaflets that we are able to hand out in clinics. And we also have a phone support system, which is itself manned by skilled patients. So how can we actually measure our success? Going right back to the start, the people who are doing the original analysis of research criticised people providing this support for trying to measure in an academic way. Well, we don't think we can accurately do that, and the best way to accurately measure the worth of what we're doing is possibly in the words of the people that we actually support. And amongst the quotes that I've picked out of Facebook today were people who said, "We are so lucky to have this group, this Facebook group. I felt alone until I found this group," which is a fantastic thing to hear. Somebody has been alone and isolated and has now got support, which is the number one thing that we try and achieve. And even more interestingly, the final quote, "I told my doctor about using itraconazole for AVPA and he looked it up. I am now on much less steroid, presumably because they're now taking itraconazole, which has had that effect." So we're actually influencing clinical treatments, which is fantastic. So we believe qualitatively what we're doing is well worthwhile and very significant. So where to now? We are constantly listening to people in our Facebook groups all the time, at our meetings and in our Skype groups. And of course, what they ask for is what we listen to and what we try and provide. So what we do, we update what we do, and we update what we talk about at regular intervals. The whole point of what we are is what our patients want us to be. Our patients are constantly redefining what their support means and how they receive it. Okay, so the Skype meeting is probably the most recent example of that. And we are reinforcing our support for carers this month. The carers, we were 75 in the group, but we'd like a lot more. We've got probably 2,000 patients communicating with us and only 75 carers. So really there are a lot more carers there we should be picking up and trying to support. And Rachel, the talk after next, will be talking about some of our work, that aspect of some of our work.